He's a Grammy winner, and now the former Guns N' Roses band member has unleashed a new album. It's called World on Fire, along with Myles Kennedy and the Conspirators. And he's here now to tell us more and, of course, talk decades of rock and roll. It's good to see you, man.
Hi, how are you?
I am excited to have you here. Talk to me about this new project.
Well, I mean, it's the latest record from myself, Myles Kennedy, and the Conspirators, and we did another one a couple of years ago called Apocalyptic Love. Yeah. And you know, I mean, it's just our newest record.
Yeah, well, but it's not just your newest record. I think it's your best record since Appetite, personally.
Well, I mean, it's good. I mean, everybody seems to be really excited about it. We were excited about it, and we're just about to go on the road and start doing our thing.
How did this collaboration come about? This one and the previous album.
Well, it started, I did a solo record in 2010 that had a bunch of different singers on it. And
that was Slash, right?
Yeah, and I recruited Myles Kennedy then, and it was the first time we ever met and worked together. And we just hit it off, and we did a couple songs then, and I asked him to come on the road with me. And so I ended up putting a band together in order to do that, and it was ended up being just the perfect band. And I thought, well, if I'm going to do another record, you know, we toured for a while, and I thought, if I'm going to do another record, I'm just going to do it with these guys, and we've been together ever since.
What makes a band the perfect band?
Just, you know, sort of like-mindedness, you know, and there's a certain chemistry that happens. Everybody's more or less into the same thing, everybody's on the same page, and just enjoys playing together and inspire each other. And, you know, there's a lot of different facets. You know, it's almost hard to verbally explain, but
you just know it.
There's a spark that happens, and you just get off on each other's energy. And
wow. And I've seen you gig with a lot of people. I actually drove to see you. You were at the Borgata maybe a year and a half ago with the Roots and some other folks.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I literally drove from here to watch you play, man. Yeah. And there's a certain level of energy you have with you, no matter who you're playing with. You just have this connection to the crowd, man. How does that develop?
I mean, you know, it's not really something that's cultivated. I just love doing what I do, and I love the energy, the interaction between what I'm doing and the crowd. And I've always, I mean, ever since I first started, that was the thing that excited me about playing, you know, especially live, the most, was how to get in front of an audience and just, you know, do that thing that happens.
Just that rock star
so
thing.
I don't, you know, I never really thought much about it. And because I'm doing it, I don't really know what that looks like from, you know, from your vantage point.
Yeah. Looks pretty awesome, by the way. It looks like some rock star shit, man. What made you get into this? Like, were you the guy who just wanted to be a musician? You were like the music nerd who then became the rock star? Or was like, I want to be a rock star, and this was just kind of the way to it?
I picked up the guitar. Yeah, prior to that, I had no inclination to be a musician whatsoever, but I had a lot of music upbringing. You know, my parents were in the music business, and, you know, there was a lot of music in my house, and so on. We listened to really good music.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then I more or less stumbled onto the guitar, and it just started there. And it was really just about playing, and you know, the one thing I wanted to do was be in a band right from the get-go. And one thing after the other, the whole sort of rock star thing really wasn't an issue. It was about putting together some good songs and playing in front of a crowd. You know, I knew that was exciting, and it just went from there.
You talk about musical influences and growing up around good music, which you clearly did. What kind of musical influences hit you?
Well, I mean, it started off with British rock bands, because that's where I was born. Yeah. So my dad was a big rock and roll fan. So it was like the Who and the Kinks and the Stones and the Yardbirds. And then when I moved to the States, it was more eclectic. My mom had a very wide variety of tastes in music. So it went anywhere from, you know, like Led Zeppelin to Stevie Wonder, from James Brown to Sly Stone to The Doors, you know, that kind of stuff. So.
And how do you go from The Doors and Zeppelin and Stevie Wonder to what you all do with Appetite?
Well, you know, the stuff my parents were listening to was basically, it was hard rock, but it was very cool. Yeah. And then you know, when I got to be a teenager, then you start finding your own sort of, so it was like Cheap Trick and Aerosmith and Black Sabbath and all the, you know, AC/DC, so all the heavier stuff. But it was Aerosmith. They had a record called Rocks, which really was pivotal for me. That spoke to me as a dysfunctional teenager and sort of steered me in that direction, which was very brash, very groove oriented, and very much in your face and very loud. You know?
When you think about that moment, the early moments of Guns N' Roses, how did you all make music? What was your process like Because it sounds like all those things kind of hit you all at once. The influences, the moment, yourselves, your own individual characteristics.
Well, I mean, Guns N' Roses was a very haphazard band, so we made music however we could make it, wherever we could make it. You know, we didn't have sort of a set thing. We just, wherever we set our hats was wherever we could make music. You know, we didn't have any money and more or less lived on the streets and hand to mouth. So it could happen in someone's living room, it could happen in a garage somewhere, it could happen backstage at a club, you know, wherever.
Wow. Word on the street is you're actually a decent singer yourself, man.
I mean, I don't know where you heard that.
That's the word on the street. They say this guy's. You know,
I mean, I can hold a tune. I'm not necessarily what you consider a singer, but I don't like singing. It's just not my personality to get up there and vocally emote, you know.
Why is that? Is that too personal?
Yeah, it's something. I mean, I never stop to think about it. It makes me very uncomfortable. I don't even like to sing when I'm in a room by myself, you know, so.
Fair enough. Yeah. There's some people in the HuffPost Live community who want to talk to you. They have some questions for you. Some of your biggest fans are right here. The first one is Christian Ruggieri. She recorded a video for you. Let's take a listen.
Hi Slash, this is Kristen from New Jersey. I saw you at the Sirius show Monday night. Awesome. My question is, I want to know how important was it moving forward with the conspirators and Miles Kennedy that, you know, you keep him as your lead singer while he's doing other projects?
Well, I mean, Miles is just, you know, when I met him, he was already in Alter Bridge, and it worked out great. There's something about him doing his own thing, and so it just takes sort of, it makes what we're doing, you know, we take it seriously when we're doing it, but it's not like the be-all, end-all, you know, this is our life kind of pressure kind of thing. We just do it for the fun of it. So it's cool, you know, we work a schedule around what his band's doing, and it just seems to work out.
Is that a better place to be in life where you don't have the pressure of like having this band that's the be-all, end-all of your life and your career?
I guess, you know, it's sort of like being in a relationship. I feel like I'm just the mistress, you know. It's sort of like, on the weekend. You know,
pretty neat.
But I mean, I didn't give it much thought. But once we got into that sort of situation, I was like, "Oh, this is cool."
Yeah. Question coming in from the HuffPost Live community right here. Chris L. wanted to know, for the record, I listen to Paradise City at least 3 times a week. I wonder what Slash's first guitar was.
My very first guitar was a Spanish flamenco acoustic, and my grandmother gave it to me. Yeah, and it had 1 string on it. When I first started learning songs on the 1 string, because I didn't know how to put the other 5 on, and that was the guitar I learned on. I finally did learn how to put the other 5 strings on, and then my first electric guitar was a Les Paul copy made by a company called Memphis. So I was attached to the Les Paul pretty early on.
You read the polls, you read the lists. Everybody has a list.
I avoid all that stuff.
I know, but sometimes some jerk journalist walks up to you and says, "What do you think about being named the 2nd best riff of all time on Sweet Child of Mine? Or what do you think about being named the such and such greatest guitarist of all time?" How do you process that now? I'm sure 20 years ago you would have processed it differently.
Probably this. I mean, well, I don't think I would have gotten that 20 years ago anyway. But I mean, even at this point, it's pretty, for me, it's pretty unrealistic. You know, I mean, there's so many riffs that I was influenced by, and to sort of get into that 2nd position, it's hard to take seriously. But it's somebody's, you know, a group of people's opinions, so it's very flattering.
When you say it's hard to take seriously, do you mean in terms of humility? Like you just can't imagine yourself having
it's, you know, you just can't accept that and go, "Oh yeah, well, it deserves to be there." Yeah. Right. But you know, I mean,
even
so
when you were doing it, even when you went back, you weren't like, "Damn, this shit is amazing."
No.
Not the Kanye West.
You know, guitar playing and writing and all, it's an ongoing process. And I don't think, at least for me personally, you never reach that point where you feel like you've arrived. So you're constantly working at it. Yeah. And for anybody to sort of, you know, take an opinion that it's at whatever level that they think it is, and if it's good, you know, you sort of take it with a grain of salt and you appreciate it and you just keep doing what you're doing.
What are you most proud of? What piece of work, whether it's a riff, whether it's a song, whether it's a chord, what are you the most proud of what you've done so far?
There's nothing that you're really most proud of. I mean, if you know, if you get to that point where there's only one thing that you're most proud of, that sort of sucks. Yeah. So you have moments that you're proud of. You know, there's been things, you know, dotted along that you look back on and go, that was cool, and you're sort of proud to have achieved that. And
like what?
Oh, you know, I mean, in the beginning, it was just, you know, Guns N' Roses as an entity was something great to be involved with, and the success of Appetite, you know, and then Velvet Revolver and certain other things, certain sessions, you know, playing with Ray Charles, playing with James Brown, playing with Lenny Kravitz, playing with Iggy Pop, Lemmy Kilmister, all these different characters, great musicians I played with. pulling this whole thing off with Miles Kennedy and having that sort of ascend the way it's been doing. So there's all kinds of things. Anytime it's a good day is something to be proud of.
Yeah, yeah. We have Eric Johannan. He's in the HuffPost Live community. He's with us live right now. Eric, you there?
Yeah, Flash.
Yeah.
What's going on, man?
Hey.
Biggest fan ever. Just want to let you know I started playing drums for the first time. Then I heard Guns N' Roses song and switched guitar. Started writing music and recording albums nonstop. I love it, man. Quick question for you. I saw you guys play at the Prudential Center with Aerosmith.
Right.
You were a half hour late, and we missed you guys. I was actually really pissed about that. But I caught the end of Paradise City, and I saw you play Mama Kin with that band. I know you've been playing Mama Kin with Aerosmith for a while now. Is that your favorite song of theirs?
Well, that's a sort of a go-to song that we don't actually have to rehearse because we used to do it with Guns N' Roses. So, I mean, there's a lot of Aerosmith songs I would love to jam with those guys, but it would it would involve rehearsal and all that kind of stuff, which on the road, on the fly like that, it's not really possible. So we always go to either Train Kept a Rollin' or Mama Kin.
Who are the folk that you want to play with? You talked about, and you played with.
Well, no,
damn near
I
everybody.
get asked that a lot. It's not really about who you want. I mean, there's countless people that I would enjoy and appreciate playing with. It's when those situations arise, you just take those opportunities and go with it. So I don't have a list of people I want to play with. You just sort of, if it happens, it happens, whoever it's with, and just go like that. You know?
Any moments where you thought a collaboration was going to be awesome or a moment was going to be great and you were like, oh, wish I'd never done this?
I can think of a couple, but I'm not going to name any
I don't want you
names.
to name them. I'm just wondering if you ever get disappointed. You know,
Yeah, no,
just
it
like interview
happens.
people. It's
I
never
mean,
disappointed.
that's one of the things about about doing that, where you're sort of, the expression I always use is just flying by the seat of your pants and just taking your chances. It doesn't always come out perfect, but the more you do it, the better at it you get, and you can make a bad situation into a good situation. And it just makes it makes you pliable. It makes it so that you can work under all different kinds of circumstances at the drop of a hat, you know. And I sort of dig that.
No, I totally dig that. Jeanette Martin's in the video well. She has a question for Slash as well. Let's see what she wants to know.
Slash, congratulations, World on Fire is doing really well on the charts. As you guys gain more popularity, are you going to shoot for arenas or are you going to stay in the smaller halls? Because that's where we like you better, really. Thanks.
That's a good question. Like we just moved into arenas in Europe, and so that's sort of daunting, you know. I like being able to play in the smaller places. Like we just did this little gig in New York at Santo's Party House, and it was the first show that we've done in a few months where it was just a few hundred capacity. And there's something that intimacy of playing in front of us that I really love, and I never want to get away from that. But of course, if you get the opportunity to play in front of more people in an arena, it's great. Just I don't want to. If we get to that point in the States of playing in arenas, I always want to be able to throw in club gigs and stuff like that.
Is there ever a moment in your career where you thought you were too big, where you would never want to go back to that moment? You know, 30 million records, fans chasing out. I mean, like, there are people who say they never want that again.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's some, you can't look a gift horse in the mouth. If you get to that place where you can play in front of that many people, you have to be, appreciative of it.
Yeah.
But you have to mix it up. You can't just stay in stadiums and stuff like that, because you get into this sort of unrealistic bubble. You need to sort of stay grounded and play in more realistic situations as often as possible.
I'm glad you said the thing about being grounded. And one of the things people appreciate about you, one of the things I appreciate about you, is that you're normal. You know? I mean,
by whose standards?
right. Definitely by rock star standards. You know what I mean? I can't speak for everyday life, but I mean, from the little things like showing up to an interview on time, right? Even early, to being able to have a normal conversation, to being grounded, and not necessarily needing to be in an arena every night. Actually caring about the music at a different level. I mean, how have you managed to be so grounded, so normal for so long?
I look at it. I don't know how to compare it to anybody else, but to me, it's something that is very grounded to begin with. Just to be able to pick up an instrument and play it and make that your life, and to be able to put a band together and go out and work. To me, it just seems like you have to sort of try and stay on the ground level as opposed. I've been in a lot of different places where I wasn't necessarily grounded, and it's just not very functional. Yeah. And it's harder to achieve whatever it is that you're trying to achieve if you're sort of putting yourself in a sort of unrealistic mind space.
What role does family play in all this for you? Does it help?
They've just been with me through the whole thing, and it's hard, because it's not very predictable, and it's crazy hours. I mean, I go on the road when the record, at this point, I'm embarking on about a year on the road. I do a lot of flying home and stuff like that because they don't want to hang out on the road, and it's too much work. Yeah. I mean, we play 6 nights a week, and we're in a different city every night. So, it's something that you learn you have to just make it work.
What's Slash like at home? What's Slash like as father? Slash like as
pretty laid back.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty easygoing. I mean, when I'm home, I like to stay. I'm a homebody. I don't like to go out when I'm home. I take the kids wherever they want to go. But as far as like being out on the town in LA, it's not my thing.
Are you the pushover father?
Totally. Totally taken advantage of. No, not totally. I mean, I have my moments. You can push me a long way, but once you push me past a certain point, then all of a sudden I become very, very serious and stern.
Does anybody call you Saul?
Just some guy who worked in the last building I was in. I have no idea who he was. No, nobody calls me. The last person to really call me Saul was my late grandmother.
Oh, wow.
So I've been called Slash since I was in high school.
Oh, wow. Even so, when you meet someone, when you date someone, when you marry someone, when you're a kid,
Well, I'm Saul. It's on my driver's license, so please call me Saul.
Of course, right. Hopefully you don't get to talk to them too much.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, tell me about the old days, man.
Speeding tickets,
Yeah, the usual.
Yeah.
What would surprise us about you? Like, tell me something, because there's nothing wild you could tell me that would surprise me about you, right? Because I just have rock star stereotypes. What's the nerdiest thing about you?
I don't know. Miles thinks I'm a nerd because I read a lot. So,
really?
I mean, because we're on the road all the time, so you take a lot of books with you and you just sort of kill time, read. So he thinks that's pretty nerdy. A lot of horror stuff. Lately there's been a lot of World War II stuff that, because I never studied that in school. And, some courtroom drama stuff,
See, that I wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
Courtroom drama from Slash.
I don't, but people ask that every so, like, what, I don't know what would surprise people.
Yeah.
No.
You've already surprised me. That's pretty cool. Question coming in from the HuffPost Live community. Anya Streisman says, Slash, what was the video for November Rain actually about? After all these years and even walking down the aisle to the song, and she's not kidding, she really did this, I'm still not sure I get it.
Is that who I met earlier?
That is who you met. That is her right there.
All right. You know what, to tell you the truth, I have no idea. Well, it was a concept. I mean, the song itself is pretty self-explanatory, but the video is so complex. And I remember, when Axl was writing it, it was so epic, it was like a movie. And I, not being a huge fan of videos and making videos especially, I just showed up for my scenes. I write my own scene. And this is what I want to do in my section. I never paid attention to the rest of the whole production. So at the end of the day, I never really knew. I knew there was a wedding in there somewhere, and I was not into the concept of the wedding.
Really?
And frowned upon it. Yeah.
Really? Why?
I don't know. Just because that seemed to me like what I would do, I guess.
Gotcha. Fair enough. I just looked at the clip there. I see you with a top hat and a cigarette. True or false? Top hat stolen?
It was stolen. I got it back. Believe it or not.
Okay, but you didn't steal it to get it.
I did steal it to get it, so that's karma.
Cigarette, no more cigarettes.
I quit smoking. I still do sort of tobacco or nicotine supplements, so I haven't really quit. But I quit smoking like 5 years ago.
Why?
Well, I was smoking like 3-4 packs a day, and you get to a point, with anything excessive, you get to a point where you're doing it, you don't even like it anymore. And you spend most of your time complaining about doing it, and you keep doing it, which is pathetic. Yeah. And the catalyst was I was in Vegas seeing Cher, and I kept going outside to smoke during the whole show. Oh. And the next morning I had pneumonia, and I don't know what that was all about, but. So I was in bed for a couple of weeks, and I couldn't breathe, let alone smoke. And at the end of the 2 weeks, I had the Marlboros or actually I was smoking Gitans, which are these French cigarettes. And I had the Gitans on the nightstand and the lighter, and I was all excited to get my first smoke in. And I thought, oh man, if I was thinking about quitting smoking, because I had been, I'm over the hump. So I haven't smoked since.
Well, that's pretty neat, man. You have all this like perspective now. What does 50 do to make someone?
I'm not 50 yet.
I know, but you're approaching it, right?
So I just turned 49. Let's not push it.
People go say, all right,
yeah,
what does 49 in 3 months?
In July, when I turned 49, I was doing an interview with a guy, and he goes, so 50. Well, it's, next year, you're going to be 50. I said, I just turned 49 2 days ago. Anyway,
I'm probably not going to see you in the next 9 months, so I'm just...
but I don't think that far ahead.
What's 49 like?
It's sort of like one of the filler number. It's like one of the passing years to get to 50, right? Yeah. So it's nothing.
You don't feel like you need to start, sometimes around people make career changes around this time. They start thinking about new projects, new stuff, new directions. Obviously, you have new bands, new music, but is there anything else you want to do?
I've been producing horror movies, and I did one last year, and I'm working on another one now, and I want to keep excelling at that and end up making some really fantastic horror movies. I think the genre has been, there's some great stuff coming out, but there was a period there where I stopped watching them.
They sucked for a while.
Yeah, it was really bad, and so I wanted to be one of the people to sort of bring back really character-driven, story-driven, dramatic horror movies. And so that's sort of like my sort of side passion at the moment. So maybe that has something to do with it.
I'm sure people ask you this all the time, but what's the relationship like between you and Axel now?
We just haven't talked. There's nothing else to say, and I try to avoid that question or any of that Guns N' Roses stuff because there has been no activity, so there's really nothing to talk about.
Do you hope for future activity?
I don't necessarily. It's been like 17, 18 years.
Yeah, no. Sometimes that's when people come back, old wounds heal, et cetera, et cetera.
I don't know. This has been pretty dormant.
Fair enough, man. Well, it's been a pleasure having you here, man. I'm glad you came through, and this new album really is amazing, man. I'm so excited.
Thanks. I really appreciate it. And it's great talking to you, and then meeting Grover was pretty cool. Yeah.
That was the first time you met Grover.
First time I ever met a Muppet.
Yeah, he was starstruck meeting the Muppet.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Most of us have some history with the Muppets and Sesame Street, and I definitely, that was like the babysitter for me when I was a kid. So.
Yeah. Yeah. My producer's in my ear yelling. She doesn't know her mic is open, but they want to know about your hair.
Yeah.
Would you ever cut it?
You know what? In the summertime, every year it gets so hot that you start thinking, I just want to cut it, but then it never happens.
Is it like this is just who I am at this point?
Yeah, I couldn't imagine walking around with really short hair. It would feel weird.
Yes, I never change. Yeah. Really, never change any of this. Never change the coolness. Never change the music, man. I'm really grateful.
I don't think that's gonna happen. All right, cheers.
All right, brother. Stay with us here at HuffPost Live. Much more coming up.